What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 39 of Between the Tackles. I am your host this evening, Hogan, and I am joined by the dude, the man. He's back, the little bitch himself. Love to hate him. Burge, he's back. What's up, buddy? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be back doing this. I appreciate you taking the reins on the solo episode last week in my absence. I'm doing great. I'm excited. We'll get into it in a few minutes, but football's back. We're getting a taste of it. And, the best time of year is fast approaching, and I can't wait. How are you doing today, man? It's good to be back with you.
I'm good. I'm looking forward. I got some vacation from my full-time job coming up in another couple weeks, so I just got to fight through the dog days of summer. Hopefully, we don't have too many left because it's starting to cool off a little bit around here, but it still sucks butthole right now with the heat and humidity and all that yuckiness. Dude. So I can only imagine what those guys down in training camp are going through, depending on their location. Obviously, Massachusetts for us Pats fans here, it's not probably much better than where we're at, but anywhere else around the country, especially where I can imagine like Florida or any of those states down there, it's got to be the worst of the worst. And I forgot to check. Do the Patriots have a game against Miami early in the season down there? Because that's usually like one thing that I look at right away. If they have a game down there later in the season, I always feel good about it. I mean, not that I ever feel good about it because the Pats just suck down in Florida for whatever reason, but I like when they go down there later in the season as opposed to early. Week 5, they're going there week 5.
Yep.
Oh, Jesus.
October 6th.
Well, they're already going to lose that game regardless of when it's played during the season. But I would have felt a little bit better if it was later on in the season, just for, like I said, humidity, weather-wise, and all that shit. But what are you going to do, right? I mean, the Dolphins, like we talked about, the other week with our AFC East breakdown, and new blog up on the Midnight Ride Productions website there. I did a little breakdown myself of the different teams in AFC East, and spoiler alert, I picked the Dolphins yet again to be the division champs at the end of the year. Do you still feel good about that? You picked the Dolphins too, right? When we talked about that, there's nobody else really that's going to make a push for them in the AFC East. What do you think?
You know where I'd stand on Buffalo. We're not going to open that can of worms already, man. We're not doing that. What do we?
We could.
Into the episode? No.
We could.
No. The Jets are going to have to prove it to me if they're really a serious contender to win the division this year. But yeah, I mean, it's the Dolphins. I think it's their division to lose, considering the step backs and talent that Buffalo has had. Buffalo's also going to have to prove that they can pick right up where they left off, given the roster turnover that they've had this offseason. And right now, I think the most complete team in the division is, the Miami Dolphins. That offense is absolutely stacked, and the defense is nothing to sweat at either. But yeah, I feel the same way.
What's interesting is when I was doing my research for my blog post there on different things that I was talking about with the different division teams, the Dolphins have not won the AFC East. Guess the last time that they won the division.
Wasn't it like in the 90s?
2008.
Oh.
The Wildcat year. Wildcat
Pennington. And Brady ACL year. That was
Chad Pennington was their starting quarterback.
Ronnie Brown.
And then before that, I believe, was the 90s, the last time when Marino was still there. That's how inconsistent that team has been. And it blew my mind that the freaking Jets have been more successful than the Dolphins. I would say, I don't know if the Jets have won. They haven't won the division.
Yes, they have. They won it in 2002. They won it.
Well, no. Well, no. I'm saying like the Jets haven't won the division as lately as the Dolphins, but I would say postseason success-wise, they've been better than the Dolphins because they made those back-to-back AFC championships with Sexy Rexy there, where the Dolphins.
Mark Sanchez.
I couldn't. When have the Dolphins last won a playoff game? Marino.
It's been I don't think they won in 2008, and I think it's been a while, and that's a troubling statistic considering Dan Marino retired in the mid 90s. Like
no 2001 he was when he last played. 2000 I think.
Maybe it was 2000 then.
Yeah, because him and Peyton. Oh, I think maybe it was Peyton's rookie year that it was. Yeah, you got to look it up now because we're gonna argue about this if we don't figure this out. Either way, this tells you listeners out there all you need to know about
99.
How putrid 99. Okay, so I was off by a year. This tells you again how putrid the Dolphins have been for how long that they haven't had a playoff win since Marino was there, and they haven't won the division in 16 years now. So, I mean, and the fact that we're both picking them to win the division this year, if they don't get it done, man, if they don't at least win a playoff game, that's freaking horrible. But anyway, we're done talking about the AFC East. We beat that division to death at this point. I want to get into a team that I sort of nitpicked a little bit last week, and it was funny. I put up a clip, and somebody came at me and was like, "Oh, Brandon Ayuk's a grown man, and he's allowed to make decisions financially, and blah blah blah." And then I was just like, "Okay," and I'm allowed to comment on it. So, what's your point there, dingus? But anyway, I'm laying off of Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he's holding out. He's demanding a trade. We know what the situation is there for him. A new piece of information was revealed that possibly the best left tackle currently in the game. I made my point very valid last week about Joe Thomas, who is no longer playing. Trent Williams, who is widely regarded as one of the best linemen to have played, and possibly, like I said, might still be the best left tackle in the game currently, is holding out for the 49ers for a new deal. And he's not a young pup by any means. He's been in the game for a long, long time. But again, the tape speaks for itself with how good he is as a player. Burgess, let me get your thoughts on this. What do you think about Trent Williams? Is he worth the money? Is it worth, getting younger? I mean, what do the 49ers got to do in this situation?
Well, I think their Super Bowl window is still wide open for them. So I think they got to pay the guy. I mean, you got to pay. That's a premium position in the league. You still have a pretty young quarterback who's kind of blossoming a little bit. Don't take away one of his blindside protector. Um, you know, I for me, a team in that position, you have to kind of bend the knee to him. It kind of depends what he's looking for. I haven't seen any details as to what he's looking to get. Maybe it's just a pay raise, but he is 36 years old. He's old, which is crazy because we're almost 36 years old. So I mean, you think of talking about it like that, it's like wow. But um, it's something where I want my quarterback protected if I'm in a window. If my team is going to rebuild and retool, then for example, like the Patriots are doing, I couldn't care less who the left tackle is right now. You're not going to spend premium money on an old asset for that position. And 49ers are in a completely different spot than our Patriots are. And I think in order for them to continue their window to hopefully get over the hump, for Kyle Shanahan, especially to get over the hump of actually like winning the big game, they're going to need him. They're going to need him to be at the top of his game and healthy. Now, him missing training camp like this isn't a bad thing because he's not going to get hurt. And he's an old guy. He doesn't really need the reps in training camp like some of the younger players do. Like he can show up late in the preseason and be good to go as long as his conditioning is there. So at the end of the day, they got to pay him.
See, I'm interested. I don't know because I'm conflicted. Obviously, my whole stance on the linemen and the offensive fatties and how much I love them and all that. I'd love to see him get paid, but at the same time, that team is so stacked right now with the talent that they have and the fact that they got to dole out the money that they need to the different positions. I mean, I was looking through it obviously when Brandon Ayuk situation popped up about him wanting to get paid, and you look over the last few years that they've had guys that have held out, including Deebo Samuel actually demanded a trade. But a lot of people forget back in I think it was like 2022, and then they reached a long-term deal with him. So Deebo's getting paid. If I'm not mistaken, I think George Kittle got paid. No, I don't know if it was recently, but like he's not making chump change. So Kittle is up there. Christian McCaffrey, everybody knows his value. I mean, the dude is the best running back in the league. He's gonna have that cha-ching no matter what. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they have a lot of studs that need to be paid over the time. Like Fred Warner is one of the possibly the best linebackers in the game right now. They let go of, I want to say, Arik Armstead he's gone now. He's not on the
Yeah.
defensive line. But still, that defense has a lot of talent. What's his name? Not Joey Bosa. Nick Bosa is another one that I'm sure they did pay. Like again, I didn't look up the exact numbers. Whether or not these guys are paid or not, they need to be paid down the line. And the fact that you have Brandon Ayuk and now you have Trent Williams both demanding a payday is only going to make matters more difficult for you. I'm more inclined if I'm a coach, if I'm Shanahan, if I'm John Lynch, whoever at this point, I'm more inclined to give Ayuk what he wants. He's a younger guy. He's a skill position guy that you need to continue to have success with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's another one that's going to get paid. Jesus Christ. I keep spouting him off. But Trent Williams, and again, I'm trying to be very careful about how I'm trying to say this. A lineman is much easier to replace than a bona fide wide receiver superstar, as we've clearly seen across the league, right? You win and lose games with your offensive line. Again, I'm not taking anything away from offensive linemen, but you can always, always, always find another massive dude that can plug up holes or run block or pass block and do the job that he needs to do well, especially in free agency, the draft, or anything like that. It's just linemen are you're easier to hit on a good lineman in one of those spots where we've all seen time and time again these guys that are supposed to be superstars of the receiver position, tight end position, running back position that just do nothing. It's just, that's my opinion. I don't know. It's just
So I did some research while you were talking.
okay.
And I looked up Trent Williams' contract.
Yeah.
He signed his deal back in 2021. It was a 6-year, $138 million deal. Okay.
So what?
In 2024, he's slated to earn $20 million.
So what the fuck does he want?
I am now like, what are we doing here? Like, what does he want? I mean, does he want to consolidate his? He's got 3 years remaining. The 4th year remaining is a void year. So it's basically a nullified year on the contract just to move some of the money around. I'm guessing he wants to restructure his deal to where some of the salary that he's due next year is kicked forward.
Gets up front.
Some sort of a signing bonus, a restructure. He's not looking for an extension like I originally thought he was looking for. Current contract he's on pretty much should take him to the end of his useful career. To the point where he's not necessarily going to be that same player.
No.
Which is a reasonable ask for somebody that plays his position at his age, one injury away. It
is until you look at how long he's played and how much money he's made in the NFL. Like, dude, again, like this goes back to my whole argument about Ayuk, right? Like, Ayuk's younger and definitely in a position where he should be demanding the money because he's still on his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken. Where Williams has made his money, and it's like, do you want the rings? Do you want the ability to make the team as best as possible around you? Or do you just want to take the payday and fuck the team over? And if you get hurt or not, like
the same motion right now, none of that money is guaranteed for him. He's kind of, I think, already earned most of the guarantees of his contract.
Yeah.
So like he wants guaranteed money, and I think that's all it is. He wants it's a technical thing. It seems like
I get it. I'm just looking at it as a normal human being with a normal 9-to-5 job that just doesn't make millions of fucking dollars. And like I would be happy with a tenth of what fucking Trent Williams has made in his entire lifetime. So like, when is enough a fucking enough? I'm sorry. Like, I don't feel fucking bad for you. Like, you've made more money to last you lifetimes. Like, I don't want to hear it.
You talk about, like, I just happened to look up George Kittle's salary contract, and he signed his deal like 5 years ago. So he's like coming towards the end of his contract.
Okay.
So the thing with the 49ers is, especially offensively, you already have a big skill position paid in Deebo Samuel. You just paid the running back. You got a wide receiver who's wanting it. George Kittle, I mean, he's not like absorbently paid, but I mean, he's paid well.
Yeah.
It's like you're investing a lot of money into these positions right now. I would hate to see them go cheap on the offensive line. And then when I say cheap, I mean, I'm just saying pay the man the guaranteed money. I'm not sure how the cap implications work. Why wouldn't they just defer it again down the road? Like, you're in a window right now. You're in a window right now to try to win something. And deferring it another year or two, you're probably just going to be putting this problem off a year until you're okay with, acts again. It's not like they can really move on from Trent Williams if they even wanted to, because his dead cap hit is higher than his cap hit itself.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, well, this year it's just about even, and then it starts going down after this year. So I don't know. I'm more of the mindset to really go for that while you have that window. And, having Trent Williams at that position, I think, gives you the best chance to win. And I would argue he's probably a little bit more valuable than Brandon Ayuk right now, given the amount of skill positions players that the 49ers already have.
That's
And
fair.
I'm going to be curious, though, because, we've been hearing talks about Brandon Ayuk wanting out since pretty much right after the Super Bowl happened.
Yeah.
And nothing is materialized. He's now holding in, the quotes, hold in, where he shows up and just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out with a lot of these guys that had asked for trades and, we haven't seen anything materialize with it. And there's a team going to come out with an injury in training camp or something where they're going to be like, hey, we'll overpay for your guy and we'll give him the money in the contract because we got a window right now to go win. Somebody like Buffalo, as much as it pains me to say that, is a team that screams a fit for something like that. They just lost their number one guy and they need a receiver, and they did have a window. I don't expect that window to reopen, so don't mistake this as confidence for the Buffalo Bills, all right? But there are going to be teams that are going to come out of the woodwork with this. And I can imagine it's going to happen in the next month. You're going to have it finalized before the end of the start of the season. I think if Brandon Ayuk is on the 49ers roster come week 1, he's going to be there the whole season. He's not going to get traded in season unless the 49ers absolutely blow.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm curious how they're gonna play this whole situation with, again, you said the cap and the money and everything, because
Yeah.
everybody's just demanding more money at this point, which I get, because even regardless being a perennial Super Bowl loser or not, you are still successful. That's the thing, right? Like that's the thing. You go back and look at the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago when they went to against Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and even though they lost that Super Bowl, their coaching staff was ripped apart in the offseason, where the offensive coordinator left for head coaching job, defensive coordinator left for head coaching job. And then you saw the ramifications of that last year, where they started off as hot as they were and then they fell apart towards the end of the year. So like, these things happen where if you don't take care of your shit in a timely fashion, things fall apart very quickly, as we've all seen in the NFL. Let's move on from the talk of the players and the money and all that stuff, and let's instead turn our attention to the coaches, as I just kind of mentioned there a little bit. And a little like nugget of news came out today that I find interesting, as Pats fans, that it was reported Bill Belichick was offered a coaching position, believe it or not, on Kyle Shanahan's staff with the 49ers. It was also reported that he declined said position because, as you can tell, he is not employed by the San Francisco 49ers currently. Burgess, what are your thoughts on Belichick, A, turning it down, but then B, what if he took the position? I got to imagine it was for the defensive coordinator, because they fired, what was it, Wilkes or whatever his name was, right after the Super Bowl. So
Stupid. It was a
you
stupid
gotta
firing
think.
to begin with.
I agree, but like, what are your thoughts if Belichick had taken that job, and how scary that defense could have potentially been with him at the helm?
They would have been instant Super Bowl favorites, in my opinion. I know that may be coming off as a little bit of ball washing for Bill Belichick, which I've been known to do over the course of the last 25 years, we'll call it.
Not you.
But seriously, though, like, you have the best defensive mind in the history of the game, who's not forced to worry about anything else but defense, coaching a very, very talented group of football players with an offensive mind like Kyle Shanahan, who, whatever his shortcomings are in the playoffs, who cares? Like, he's a brilliant offensive mind in the game of football in today's game. And that marriage, I think, would have really gone somewhere there. In fact, when Wilkes was fired, and we obviously heard the news about Belichick leaving, I'm like, there's a fit. If the guy wants to coach and is willing to take a back seat, their connection between, Mike Shanahan and Bill and Kyle, there's a lot of connection there, professionally in the league for a long time. So it seems like it would have been a good fit. The report that I read from, I think it was from Florio, was that they offered him to do whatever the heck he wanted with the 49ers. It could have been as little or as big of a role to be a part of the team. And, it's, I shouldn't say I'm surprised that Belichick turned it down, because I'm not, because, he's got an ego when it comes to football. He wants to be the head guy and have it all about him when it comes to the coaches and all that. But I think he might have gotten a taste of the media stuff at some point during the offseason, even before, with the top 100 and everything, that he, I think, wanted to take the year to explore that and then see how it goes and then evaluate what he wants to do after that. Because we've been in agreement here. Like, if there's a job that opens up next year to a contending team like Dallas, that he's going to, we're like 90% sure he's going to come out of retirement and coach again to get, at the very least, to get the record, the wins
Oh, of
record.
course. Yeah.
So I personally, I would have liked to have seen it because the 49ers, you give them a lot of hate and everything like that. But like, I don't hate what they're doing there. I like the skill positions. I was rooting for them in the Super Bowl last year. I didn't root for them against Detroit. We all know how that went down. But it's they're not an unlikable group of people, in my opinion. Like, it's not an unlikable team. And Buffalo Bills, extremely unlikable. Hateable, but not the 49ers.
No, so I don't hate the 49ers. They've been easy pickings the last few weeks because of all the news that's been coming out again with everybody demanding trades and the money talk and all that stuff. And I definitely don't disagree with you where it would have been fascinating, absolutely fascinating to see what that defense could have been had Belichick decided to take the position regardless of what shit, he could have been the defensive tackles coach, and I guarantee that defense would have been phenomenal. But again, I'm not surprised in the slightest that he turned it down. Like you touched on his ego and just who Belichick is. He's at that point, and deservedly so, that he deserves whatever opportunity he goes to be the mastermind, the puppet master, and do what he wants to do, because the guy won 6 championships. And granted, the old debate goes back to Belichick, Brady, blah blah blah. Put that aside. He's still a once in a lifetime coach. That if you think about what he was able to do defensively with a bunch of no names at the time with that 0-1 Patriots defense, and then the way that it circumvented into that first run of the dynasty in the early 2000s, that was Belichick. You can sit there and say it was Brady. It was Belichick, because that
100%.
defense was just, it was what they did to the greatest show on turf. Like, I will go to my grave and I will fight tooth and nail to say that as phenomenal and as amazing as Brady was in the clutch moments that you needed him to, that game was won by that defense. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in
100%.
my mind. Brady's fucking stats in that game, I don't think he had 150 yards passing. You can look that up. I will promise you. He won MVP with a less than 150 yards passing and 1 touchdown. They had to give it to somebody, and it was happened to be Brady. That's why he got MVP in that game. The MVP of that fucking game was Belichick because of what he did for that defense. So, again, not shitting on the 49ers. I whatever. They can do whatever they want. I won't root for them. I don't really give 2 shits about them. I hope, for God's sakes, McCaffrey stays healthy, because he's the Madden cover athlete. So we all know how that typically tends to go. And I don't want to see him go down, because he makes the game way too fun to watch him do the crazy shit that he does. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how the 49ers bounce back this year. Again, it's always a interesting tale of like the Super Bowl losing team and what they do going into the next year. And obviously the 49ers have a recent track record of being really, really good, regardless of where they end up at the end of the season, losing in the Super Bowl, losing in the NFC Championship, losing wherever. They're there. They're a thorn in your side that won't go away if you're an NFC fan, as Detroit would know. Hopefully Detroit gets over that hump this year. I don't know. We'll see. So, interestingly enough, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this episode. And with all this 49ers talk, all you out there are probably thinking, hey, they're probably going to be breaking down the NFC West, right? Right, Burge? That's probably where we're heading with all this 49ers talk? Psych! We ain't talking about those hobos out there. Fuck the NFC West. We're talking about the AFC North today, baby. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. I hate the Ravens. And the lovable losers, the Cleveland Browns. Those dumpster fire children over in Ohio. You got to love to just shit on them whenever you get a chance. For me personally, I can't. Well, I don't hate Cleveland. I just find it hilarious to dump all over them because they're terrible all the time. And I'll go to my grave saying that I don't think they'll ever win anything because they suck. But Let's get into your thoughts first and foremost, Burge. Do you have a team in this division that really jumps out to you? I know Baltimore obviously was the top dog last year, where they made it to the AFC Championship, where again they came up losing again to the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you see anybody fighting them for a spot at this point, or do you see the Ravens kind of running with the division again?
I feel like saying Baltimore is going to run away with the division is the easy answer. Um, they still got Lamar. They still have all that talent there. They got a great coach in John Harbaugh. I don't know. I've had a soft spot for the Cincinnati Bengals for basically since Joe Burrow got there. You know, with how that franchise has turned around. They used to be the laughing stock. You know, we'd always make fun of them because of Andy Dalton. You know, the Red Rifles out there throwing the football around. But like,
Red Rocket. There he
yeah,
goes.
yeah, exactly. Like, you know, we all say what you want about Andy Dalton. He had some effective years, but at the end of the day, with him and Marvin Lewis, you knew they were going nowhere in the playoffs. And you knew
Yeah.
they were going absolutely nowhere. They'd have some regular season success and then they'd poop themselves, you know, at crunch time. But even when they hired Zach Taylor to be the head coach, I was like, this guy's a freaking puppet, dude. Who the hell is this guy? I was wrong. Like, he's actually turned into a pretty good head coach in there. He's obviously got a lot of talent, um, especially offensively there. I'd like to see them get back to where their form was, you know, from their Super Bowl run a few years ago with Joe Burrow being healthy. They've had a little bit of turnover offensively, you know, with Joe Mixon no longer there. You have the contract situation with T. Higgins, where I think he ended up signing his franchise tag.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think he's gonna
he's going to play
play
under the
the
tag.
year. Yeah, but no, they said absolutely zero extension in the
Yeah.
future for him. So
So like that's something good to see. Whether he's going to be out there making business decisions or not throughout the season, who knows? But they're a team that I'd like to see challenge them, challenge the Ravens to make a real run. I think this is going to be one of the better divisions in football. To be honest with you, it's always super competitive. You know, the Steelers haven't been below 500 in what it might at least in Mike Tomlin's entire run. You know, say what
yeah,
you want about that. You know, whether it's good or bad for a franchise, but that's still pretty impressive of a run to have. You know, despite the fact that Tomlin's only won one Super Bowl in that period of time. Like,
I was gonna say I can't tell you the last time they won a playoff game. And I know I've gone
yeah,
off about him before on the podcast, but
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. But they're always a thorn in the side of you know, those divisional games are always good. I can't bring myself to take the Browns super seriously because of their quarterback,
yeah.
Sean Watson, and that whole situation there. Um, you know, they did add Jerry Judy, which I thought was a fantastic pickup. I wish the friggin' Patriots were in on that. But at the end of the day, they weren't. Obviously, on the defensive side, they still have Myles Garrett. Um, we'll have to see, you know, what Nick Chubb turns into. We all saw that gruesome injury that he had last year. Um, he did get placed on the pup list, I think, today, actually. So he's not going to be on the field to start training camp, which I don't think anybody expected that. You know,
No.
given what he's going through, we'll see if he's half the same player that he was before the injury. But at the end of the day, there's too many question marks there with the Browns for me to really take them super seriously at this point. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I know you hate the Ravens, but do you see anybody really kind of challenging them for the top spot in that division?
I mean, I was picking earlier when I said that Cincinnati, I could see making a run for the divisional crown at this point. I think it's definitely going to come down to excuse me, Cincinnati versus the Ravens at the end there. Again, I kind of want to tip my hat towards the Ravens just because they have the pedigree and they've been there, where the Cincinnati Bengals are just too inconsistent for my liking right now. Not saying I don't think Cincinnati's going to be a good team or that they're not going to have a playoff run or anything like that, as long as everybody stays healthy. Because again, we all see what the Bengals are capable of when Burrow's healthy and he's got Jamar Chase out there, he's got T. Higgins, and he's got, you know, the offensive firepower. Again, they lost Mixon, and then they also lost. I want to say, was it Eifert? Not Eifert. They had that tight end there a couple of years ago he went to Carolina. I can't remember his name, but he was like decent there. I think he was another ginger. I don't know why we're fascinated
I'll
with
look it
ginger.
up while you're talking. I'll
Okay,
tell you who it was.
that's all right. But again, it's if they're able to stay healthy and they can come together and that defense can actually, take care of business, the division's theirs for the taking if they are able to perform against Baltimore. And again, Baltimore doesn't terrify me like they used to, where yeah, Lamar is really, really good and won MVP, but it's not they showed again in the playoffs, like with the Chiefs. What do you got? You got the name?
Is it Hayden Hurst you're thinking of?
Hayden Hurst, that's his name. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was really, really good there for like a year or two, and
You
then
know
he
who their
took the
tight end is
payday.
this year?
Oh God, is it somebody I hate? Probably, isn't it? Who is it?
Michael Gesicki.
Oh God, that bum.
You know who
I,
their right
I
tackle is?
Trent Williams. Or not Trent Williams. I always trace Trent Williams. Trent Brown.
Trent Brown.
Puke City. All right, never mind. Ravens in a landslide. Bengals are fucked. Sorry, guys. That's a wrap on the AFC North. No, 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 no. Oh God, that's awful that they signed Trent Brown. But no, oh, I actually do, like I said, think that the Bengals can make a push. But again, I think it's the Ravens division to lose. But like what I was talking about earlier, where I'm not terrified of the Ravens, is that in the playoffs, the Chiefs kind of expose them, right? Where if you get up to any kind of lead on Lamar, he cannot beat you passing. And I know I'm going to catch some flack for that because he was the MVP and he has the passing stats. But at the end of the day, the guy has not proven that he can win in the playoffs throwing the football.
And I'll say this too: when you talk about Lamar, it's like, it's kind of the same argument that I love against Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Mm.
These teams can't beat the top dog, and that's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. If you can't beat them in the playoffs, no one really could take you all that seriously come postseason. You have to prove that you can do it. It was kind of how
Yeah.
we always used to say about everybody coming against the Patriots. Peyton Manning was the big one that comes to mind. He couldn't beat Tom Brady and the Patriots in the playoffs until he did it in that horrible 2006 AFC Championship game.
We're not going to talk about that.
Okay, but the point stands. Like until you're able to really go toe to toe with the top dog and win. And I get it. Like the football's a team sport. A quarterback doesn't play defense against the other quarterback. But at the end of the day, you got to do enough to get your team to a point where you don't have to worry about the other team's quarterback. If you're able to do that, you're elite at that point, and
you got to score points. You got to score
Exactly.
points. What was the like? I off the top of my head, I can't recall, but the AFC Championship last year was a low scoring. I want to say that the Ravens didn't run the ball like once in the second half of the game. That was like the biggest joke about how potent their fucking run offense was, and they didn't run the ball once. And I'm pretty sure they barely. I don't even know if they scored 10 points in that game. And I know they
10
blew out.
points.
They 10 points. It was 10 points. And what did the Chiefs score? Like it wasn't like a
17.
bazillion.
It was a touchdown game.
You held the Chiefs to 17 points, which is like historic as far as I'm concerned, against a talent like Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid and that fucking offense. And you returned 10 against them with the MVP. With the MVP.
2 turnovers by Lamar.
Well, I remember actually there was a big turnover. It wasn't like Zay Jones fumbled into the end zone at one point in that game too. That was a big thing that I remember playing in the game.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers. I keep saying Zay Jones. Zay Flowers.
But Lamar had a pick and also lost a fumble. So they turned the ball over 3 times in that game. That's the difference.
But again, that it goes back to my point of like this is the kind of shit that you need to take care of against those upper echelon teams to get yourself over that hump.
The Baltimore Ravens held the Kansas City Chiefs scoreless in the second half of that game.
And they couldn't win.
And they went into the half down by 10. And they didn't kick the field goal until there was 2.5 minutes left in the game.
How is that possible? I just don't understand. Like
the weather wasn't horrible. The weather wasn't horrible.
No.
Like,
and I just, for me personally, like it baffles me because, like, again, to touch on where you said that Harbaugh is a good coach, and I don't disagree with you. He is a good coach, but to see what he was able to accomplish with Joe freaking Flacco, and then the defense that they had at that time, led by Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, who fucking Suggs, I hate him more than anything, but like that team. Well, I know he was good, but I still fucking hated him. But like that team was just like able to fire on all cylinders. They could beat you offensively if they needed to. They could beat you defensively if they needed to. This team with Lamar does not scare me offensively. They beat up on bad teams in the regular season to make you sit there and go, wow, they're really good. And hey, Lamar Jackson, you're an MVP candidate or you're an MVP finalist. They cannot perform, like you said, in the playoffs against the best of the best. And it's proven time and time again. And again, Ravens fans, come at me. I don't care. I'm just speaking the facts at this point. You guys have not won since Joe Flacco was your quarterback. And he actually was in the division leading another team that we should talk about into the playoffs, Cleveland Browns. Like you were talking earlier, I'm on record as same with you, where Deshaun Watson does not move the needle at all for me. He's a fucking clown as far as I'm concerned with this whole massage thing. But then on top of that, he's just a piece of shit person. Then on top of that, he's not a very good player anymore. He was a tremendous player down in Houston his rookie year, and then going into like a couple of years after that. And now he's just a shell of himself.
He was tremendous until he missed that whole season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like he had his opportunity last year to shut everybody up, prove them all wrong. They had a great talent on that team with Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb before he got hurt. I think did they have Kareem Hunt last year? He went back to him at one point, right? Yeah, they had Kareem Hunt, who was no slouch when he was playing at the top of his game. And it's just they did nothing, and then the whole situation where he was hurt and then he wasn't, or whatever it was. I remember there was like a whole thing that just was like spiraled that made Deshaun Watson look even dumber than he already is. And then I was so happy to see Flacco literally come off his couch being retired, like semi-retired or whatever it was, and literally like eating potato chips and drinking beer and coming off his couch and being like, fuck it, let's go Browns. We're going to the playoffs, whether you like it or not. And seeing him lead that little hoorah up until they met their demise at the end there against the Houston Texans was at least entertaining. Like as much as I love to shit on the Browns, it was entertaining to see what Flacco was able to do.
It was the first time I was actually like kind of rooting for him, because obviously when he was in Baltimore, I freaking hated him. I thought he was the most overrated QB in the league. But yeah, that was a great story.
Exactly.
And Deshaun Watson has a chance to do it again this year, though. That offense still has a bunch of talent on it.
Yeah.
Like even with Nick Chubb hurt, like they added Jerry Jeudy, who's a number 2 to Amari Cooper. That's a solid wide receiver room.
Absolutely. I agree. Like I said, it's just the Browns will forever just be the butt wipe of the NFL as far as I'm concerned, because they're a joke. They're a joke. You hear so many stories about them, and it's just the Browns are going to always be the Browns. So I'll move on from them. Like we talked about with the Browns, we talked about Cincinnati. You want to get one more thing about the Browns?
I just want to say one more thing. I think this is a make or break year for Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
I mean, well, I'm not so sure about that.
I'm not saying like they need to win the division and actually do something, but they can't suck.
Okay.
They can't suck.
Agreed on that aspect, but I think his job's safe because, like I said, what he was able to accomplish last year was phenomenal. That was a great coaching job. What he did last year.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Didn't they have like 4 or 5 quarterbacks at one point last year? Because
they played like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah.
So I think he's good, and like I said, the rest of the Cleveland organization is a bunch of jokesters. But let's move on to a team that we haven't talked a whole lot about, and that's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, I know you don't like them. They never bother me because they just never could beat anybody really in the playoffs, like named Tom Brady. So it never bothered me in the slightest what they could do. That being said, like you touched on a little bit earlier, Mike Tomlin, the very notorious for not having a losing record in any season as a head coach currently, which is, it's a great accomplishment is, I guess, what the nice way I'll say it. But again, he's won 1 Super Bowl. That was back in 2008. Anybody want to do the math out there and tell me how long ago that was? 16 years. Same time that the Dolphins last won the AFC East. There you go. Easy to figure that one out. And since then, I don't know if they've won 2 or 3 playoff games. So to sit there and be like, look at us, we don't have a losing record. You can't win the division. You don't do anything. You don't make the playoffs. And when you do make the playoffs, you fizzle out. I think the last time they won a playoff game was 2016.
That sounds right. Yep.
They played the Patriots. They played the Patriots in the AFC Championship, and we beat them to go to Atlanta face Atlanta.
Bingo.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I didn't even need to look up anything. You can see my hands
That's
here and
8
everything.
years. Oh my God. That's a
8 years
long
ago.
time.
And that's why I give Tomlin the shit that I do. I'm not taking away from the fact that he's a good coach. This is my take on Tomlin, okay? I consider him probably one of the greatest sports therapists of all time with what he was able to do with a locker room that consisted of Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio freaking Brown, okay? Like, I don't know anybody else on the planet that could handle a locker room with those fucking idiots and do what he did. Like, they were great when those guys were on the team, and you just saw what happened to Roethlisberger has his own quirks. He is whatever, but what happened to Bell and then again Antonio Brown. I mean, just go visit his Twitter page if you really need to know anything about Antonio Brown at this point. But please don't, because you might want to not look at Twitter ever again, which I don't blame you. But anyway, the Steelers are an enigma to me because I don't see them as a bad team, but at the same time, they don't do anything to excite me. They don't do anything that will make me fear them. I mean, Christ, they were one of our 3 victories as Pats fans last year when we beat them. What was that? Like the great battle of Mac Jones versus Mitch Trubisky or some bullshit in like week 5 or something, right? No. That was 2 years ago. Zappy beat him on like Thursday night last year
Oh,
when he threw 2 touchdowns to Hunter Henry. That was it. So even when we suck more than any other team, we still beat the Steelers. That's why I have no qualm with them. I'm sorry, Steelers fans, but I'm not sorry. You guys just suck the Patriots' butthole at this point, and even when we're at our worst, you can't beat us. That's just how it is. And now you got Russell Wilson, and you got Justin Fields. And I'm very, very curious to see how that situation is going to play out because I believe Russell only signed a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. And then obviously they traded for Fields, and I don't think they picked up his 5th-year option going forward. But I'm curious to see what Tomlin and the coaching staff either decide there, whether they want to roll with Russell and just have maybe Fields get a better grasp of the offense watching as a backup, or if they're really going to let Fields have a chance to battle Wilson. Burge, what do you got on this? Do you have any thoughts about, I know you kind of wanted to be in on Fields when the trade went through where you were upset that the Pats didn't go after him, which granted for me, I'm happy that we did stay the frig away from Justin Fields. I think he's an overrated bum. But how do you feel about him and that whole Steelers situation with Russell Wilson right now?
I can't stand Russell Wilson. I'm waiting for the Steelers country, let's ride, to start coming out. Like, I love the trade for the Steelers to pick up Justin Fields because now they have a guy who's on a 1-year deal who is essentially, if you want to call it a bridge, you can call it a bridge. It's not your traditional bridge where you normally bridge to a rookie quarterback. Fields has shown a lot of flashes. It's not going to surprise me. Now, this is by no means a prediction either, but it's not going to surprise me if Fields is the starting quarterback at the end of the season. I don't want to see it because I think it's going to do the Steelers good, and I will always root for the Steelers' demise. I'm sorry, Mr. Sage. I'm sorry. You're my boy. If you're ever listening to this, but I hate your Steelers, man. I hate them. Not Buffalo level. They're on top. Ooh. They're my top 5, which I think we'll on a later episode we'll get into our top 5 rankings of hated franchises and all that. But I'm very interested to see how the dynamic plays out because Russell Wilson signed there, and then the trade happened, I think. So it was like after that. So Russell Wilson signs there to play, and then they trade for a guy who's younger, kind of the same type of skill set. What Russell was when he was younger in his career. Has that mobility. It's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Deontay Johnson's no longer there for the Steelers, he was a target hawk for, Kenny Pickett and Roethlisberger before him. George Pickens is going to have to take a step forward. Other than that, they have Roman Wilson, the rookie, as a wide receiver, which I think he's going to pop and be a stud because the Pittsburgh Steelers, I got to give them credit. One thing that they're able to do is identify wide receiver talent in drafts and just continue.
Oh God, yeah.
Continuously to churn them out. not even going that far back, but you go Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster was awesome when he was there.
Yep.
Deontay Johnson, they've now hit on George Pickens,
Yep.
who, despite being a mental case on the field, is an absolute talent. And I fully expect that to continue with Roman Wilson. They signed Van Jefferson as well. He's kind of a nobody, but maybe they identified something in him that the Rams were not able to identify in the past, and he can turn into something. Who knows? But they scream another middler to me, like another 9-8 season, maybe sneaking into a wild card and being one and done in the playoffs again. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, I don't know if you're ready to get into your rankings for the division now. I think we've kind of touched on everybody.
Yeah, we could probably do that.
If there's anything else you want to hit on before we do that, I'll take it right away.
No, go into it. Let me see what you got.
So I think we talk. I got the Browns in the basement simply because I don't trust Deshaun Watson. Steelers at 3, Ravens at 2, and I'm picking the Bengals at 1. Part of that is picking a little bit with my heart, which I know gets me into trouble from time to time. We should say all the time.
What you want, baby. It's what you want.
I would say that the top 2 spots of that are interchangeable, but I would block the other 2 in those spots right now as it stands today. Injuries obviously can come in and change everything up. So I reserve the right to change my ranking as the season goes on. Well, I'm sure we'll revisit these preseason rankings throughout the season. But yeah, I got Cincinnati. They're going to be like this year's like Houston Texans team for me. Like, I know the Houston Texans were a little bit different where they kind of came out of nowhere, but I could see the Bengals being my team this year to be like, get over the hump. Let's go. Make a deep run into the Super Bowl. Knock off Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, that douchebag. Knock him out of the playoffs, please, and go win yourself a Super Bowl. I would love for a Cincinnati Bengals, Detroit Lions Super Bowl. That would be my heaven matchup.
Be the ultimate degenerate matchup of all time. But yeah, that would be an absolute blast to see. Okay, I'm not too far away from what you said, but I got a couple of change-a-roonies that I want to throw in there for my division predictions, as we're officially stating them here on Between the Tackles. I, believe it or not, like the Pittsburgh Steelers at the bottom of the barrel. Give me them in 4th place. Again, well, I don't hate them like you do. Like I said, I think the only true victory they have over the Pats that pissed me off back in the day was when they beat us on Halloween night in 2004 to end that, what was it, 21 win streak or whatever we had. So I dislike them for doing that. But then after that, it's just we wipe our butt with them every time we play them, regardless of how much we suck. So it is what it is. But give me Pittsburgh at the bottom of the barrel. I think the wheels come off this year, where the whole Russell Wilson and Justin Fields saga, I think, is going to blow up in their faces, where they just. I don't think it's going to end well because of Russell's ego, and Fields is obviously going to be like, I'm a starter. I should be a starter, blah, blah, blah. So give me them to finish last. Give me the Browns to finish 3rd. I just think, obviously, as terrible as they are with Watson, if they're able to get somebody, again, like a Flacco type veteran in there behind Watson to lead them. Okay, never mind. Well, that just blew up that whole conversation I had in my head with myself. I forgot Jameis Winston was. Oh, but you know what? Hey, as dumb and as goofy as Jameis Winston is, I almost want to consider taking him over Deshaun Watson, just because of the lack of talent that Watson's shown the last few years with what he was able to do with the Browns. So I still think that they're not going to be tremendous. Their defense is going to be okay. Offense is going to be a question mark. They still have a lot of talent there, but what's up?
Winston did pretty good with the Saints.
That's what I mean. Like, he's not the worst of the worst. I mean, I think he's a goofy bastard. Backup. He's great for throwing 30 interceptions and 30 touchdowns, as we all know. So give me the Browns at number 3. Number 2, give me the Bengals. I got them returning to form. Like I said, if Joe Burrow is able to stay healthy and that offense is able to kind of rekindle that fire that they had a couple of years ago with the runs that they had. But again, give me Baltimore to win the division. Again, I'm not saying that it's bending the knee. No, I'm saying they're going to win the division. What they do every year, they show up for the regular season. They do what they do. And then Lamar Jackson is going to not be able to throw the ball in the postseason. They're not going to go very far. It's as simple as that. He's going to run into Patrick Mahomes again and go, uh-oh, it's Patty Mahomes. And
You
poop his
chicken.
pants. And
You
poop his
chicken.
pants. I just said they're going to win the division, but they're going to crap themselves in the playoffs. How's that being a chicken? I'm
You're still giving
what's
too
gonna
much
happen.
credit. Still
How am I
giving him
giving
too
him
much credit.
Okay, here's this. Here's my prediction, right? Bengals to make the playoffs, go further in the playoffs than the Ravens who win the division. Happy?
No. You still pick them to win the division.
Of course you wouldn't be happy, you bitch.
You're
This
an
is why
idiot.
I was happy you weren't here last week. It was like
Yeah,
I could just talk to myself and be happy.
Get out of here.
Oh God, I miss you, buddy. I miss you so much. Like I said, we gotta get the juices flowing on here. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, AFC North is going to be a very interesting division to see who comes out where. It's all like you touched on earlier. It's a very, very competitive division where the teams do not like each other much, but it's always a fascinating watch as a fan outside of that division because especially when it's like Steelers and Ravens, those guys, it's like going to war when you see those primetime games. Especially, I always reminisce about the old school, like Ray Lewis versus Jerome Bettis or Roethlisberger versus Flacco. Like those were just some great, great football matchups that we got to see, especially in the time that we were growing up and watching those games as it went down.
Sunday Night Football, late November, early December. Those are the perfect matchups for that time period right there.
Yeah. It was just that was, the Hines Ward versus I don't know, Torrey Smith or whoever else. Like there's just been so many good players at different positions on both of those teams that just I love watching that shit. And then Cleveland's just been the joke that they are. Sorry, Cleveland. I'm just going to keep piling on you because it's easy because you're the Browns. And then I'm very much in agreement with you where the Bengals have always been a kind of a joke for a while. The Bungles is what they were always known as growing up because they just couldn't get over that hump. They couldn't do anything right. And now it's kind of exciting to see a team that was down in the dumps for so long kind of take that step forward. It would be cool to see them, make another Super Bowl run or hell, even host the Lombardi Trophy if that's, what they're able to do at some point. But yeah, that's what we got for our AFC North, either predictions, breakdowns. Any of you guys out there disagree with us or want to tell us how wrong we are or yell at me about my hot takes about Lamar Jackson or the Cleveland Browns? My DMs are open, as Birds likes to say. I got to point the wrong way. I can see my camera. I'm all fucked up now, discombobulated. But yeah, my DMs are open. So come at me, bro. I already pissed off one 49er fan last week. I'm looking to piss off more. I learned my lesson about Jacksonville, but I'm ready to take on a whole new division at this point. So fuck them all. That's what I say. Birds, you got anything else about the division before we get ready to wrap or plug this sucker up? What do you got for me? Anything?
The only thing I'm gonna say right now is I'm so happy that training camp has started.
That's right.
I am just so happy we made it to the end of July. The teams are reporting to their respective facilities and they're gearing up for yet another season of football. Now I gotta say, I don't want to rush through the preseason, but I'm kind of like that person where I just got my fix and now I'm like, all right, now I'm ready for the real effing thing. And by the time September rolls around, I'll be like, this early season football sucks. Give me November, December, where we're talking about playoff battles and in regular season football games that are really having playoff implications. And then I'll be like, all right, I'm done with this. Give me to the playoffs, and then I'll be just sad again. I'll be sad for 6 months because we got no more football. But we're back. We're back. We're just getting started. I can't wait for NFL football, and I can't wait to bring all of our thoughts, whether you like them or not, whether I sound like an ass or an idiot, which happens on an every week basis if you ask Hogan over there.
I mean, I'm not wrong.
Most of all, I'm ready to absolutely shit on the Buffalo Bills when they are not as good as they used to be. I cannot wait. I'm done.
All right.
Done.
Well, you heard it there, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it there. Burgess is ready to shit on the Bills. If there's one thing you take away from this podcast today, it's that. That's about it. So, real quickly before we go, again, I want to thank everybody out there for listening. If you've made it this far with us, we always appreciate every one of you out there who gives us a listen on a weekly basis. On top of that, too, if you would like to go visit the company that we started, that we're brought by and everything, we are through midnightrideproductions.net. That is where you can find all the information you would like on us, where we do all the media fun stuff, whether it's podcasts, blogging, media stuff. Like I said, if you want to check out the blog that I am currently writing on a week-to-week basis, Ice Cold Brewskis, where maybe I'll do another exciting division breakdown. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, I'm mixing it up a little bit. We talk about I try to talk about Patriots specific on there, but again, if you're interested and you're out there and you want to write about, how much Burgess sucks when he talks about things, I might actually read that blog myself. That'd be a fun blog to read. I actually will endorse you for that one. I might even sponsor you for that. So if you're out there listening and you want to talk about how much Burgess sucks, just know you could get paid by yours truly. So again, just want to thank everybody, and we're glad that Burgess is back. Hopefully we'll get him next week. If not, I know I got a good buddy out there, Kyle, who is interested in joining us. We're going to be talking about the NFC East breakdown next week.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah,
I'll be here for that one.
He's an Eagles fan, so we definitely want to make sure that we shit all over him. Hopefully as much as you like shitting on the Bills. So we'll go after him hard, and I'm sure he's going to give it right back because he loves calling the Patriots cheaters, which is fine. He can say what he wants, but 6 is greater than 1, sucker.
We're gonna have some good arguments next week if he's gonna be calling the Patriots cheaters, man. Let's go.
It's gonna be a doozy. So as always, all y'all out there have a fantastic week. We love you. Go Patriots.
Peace.
Later.